Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us here on Sharing the Light. Joining Sunshine Cathedral Senior Minister Reverend Dr. Durrell Watkins will be Reverend Cindy Lippert from Arizona and the Reverend Dr. Will Mercer from New York. Their topic for this segment of discussion will be reasonable, relevant religion. So let's tune in now and listen to these three wonderful people as they address this topic, reasonable, relevant religion.
Well, okay, we're here again for another episode of Sharing the Light. And as Robert introduced, with me today is Reverend Dr. Will Mercer, who is the president of the Divine Science Federation International. He's the vice president of the Divine Science Ministers Association. He lives in New York City. And then also with us is the Reverend Cindy Lippert. She's the past president of the International New Thought Alliance. And she's been with us recently, in fact, the last several Sharing the Light episodes leading up to this, and is with us again. So we're gonna have this big divine science discussion today with the big dogs, with the famous people. And our topic, of course, is reasonable, relevant religion, which is a great alliteration, but also for some people maybe a bit of an oxymoron. So that's what we're going to talk about. Like, is there such a thing as reasonable, relevant religion? Why would that be necessary? How does that work out? So let's just start out with your opening thoughts, and then we'll see what scary directions that takes us.
Me?
You always have a thought.
Well, the first thing that came to mind was Sunshine Cathedral.
Yes.
Very relevant, very reasonable. Religion that works in your daily life, I think, makes it relevant and accepting and non-judgmental and authentic.
We say that we try to practice a spirituality that is progressive, positive, and practical. That's what we say at Sunshine Cathedral. And I think the practical bit is the relevant. The practical is what makes it relevant. Like how is religion helping me have less fear, more courage, more hope, more compassion? How is it helping me live this life? We don't really focus so much on the next life. Just like we got here okay, I'm assuming we're going to get to whatever's next okay. But the best way to prepare for whatever that is to get this one right. And so we're trying to live lives of love, compassion, empowerment right here and right now. So that's the relevant piece. We'll get to reasonable later, maybe. Will?
Well, and I think from the standpoint of relevance, we're also talking about life tools, actual life lessons that can be applied in people's lives that not only touch their hearts, but also motivate them to do things in perhaps ways they haven't considered.
So when we're talking about religion, though, religion just, a lot of people don't even like the word. They're like, oh, I'm spiritual but not religious. Or they've even gone beyond that. They're like, you know what, it's all crap. I've just gone atheist because it's just, it was all silly and ridiculous with the magic cookie and the magic water and the whatever. But what sometimes people will say is, I gave it up because I just got tired of all this sin talk and all the who's in and who's out and you've got to do this certain thing on this certain day in this certain way and it didn't make sense, so I gave it up. And I kind of missed it at the same time. And so when I found a place where I could have the community, where I could have something that felt religious without all of that religious baggage, it felt like coming home. It's like, oh wow, I do like the good things that religion offers: community, comfort, rites of passage. I do like those things, but I thought that it came too high a price. I didn't know that you could also be a thinking person. You could have questions. You could have doubts. You could just all out reject some things and still be part of a religious system. So that's where reason comes in. Along my trajectory of Zen and Anglicanism and Universalism and divine science and religious science and all the things that have made me into this this crazy hodgepodge. One of those traditions in the Anglican tradition, there was this three-pronged stool, we called it, of Anglicanism, that said that faith should be made up of three things, and it was tradition, scripture, and reason. But I never heard much talk about the reason. Just like I always grew up hearing that God was omnipotent and omniscient and omnipresent. But even though God was omnipresent, we always acted as if and prayed as if God was far, far away and rather hard of hearing and pretty ambivalent about what's going on in our lives. And so when we start talking about reason and taking it seriously, or omnipresence and taking it seriously, it changes the way people experience and believe and feel about religion.
Absolutely. It does. It's like dealing with bipolar bad mood God on Sunday and trying to figure out, what's the thinking here and how can I line up with this God that is somehow temperamental. How can I apply this to my life? I had those traditions when I was a kid, and you're right. Reason didn't really factor in. There were rituals and things like that, but as I got older, my adult life and challenges didn't match my religion, so I discarded the religion completely. Then there came a point where one of my childhood friends passed, and it occurred to me, where did she go? And I didn't know. It sounds crazy, but it bothered me. Here I was, 42 years old, and I didn't know where my best friend was for the first time. Well, maybe not the first time. She's probably been other places. But you mentioned about afterlife. I really didn't know where she was. So that launched me into ministerial studies and seeking after truth teachings and ancient wisdom, as you mentioned, Zen and the body of ancient wisdom. I can tell you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, all these years later, pastoring churches, all kinds of various activities and associations and all of that, I still don't know where she is. Mm-hmm. But I'm at peace about that. It's the great question, and I think nobody knows. But it's reasonable to say, okay, the one thing that we do know is this moment. How can we show up authentically, coming from a spirituality that informs our lives in a loving, respectful, helpful way?
Is it reasonable to say, I like religious community, I like rites of passage, I like having a safe place to ask the questions, and I don't know where she is? Like I have all these questions, I don't necessarily have a lot of answers. Is that a reasonable approach to religion?
Yeah, I believe it is. I think that people are always seeking an answer that for most of us is unavailable. We strive to make sense of the world around us and the spiritual iconography, if you will, or activity that we see around us. And I define a difference between reasonable and reason. I think that it is reason that allows us to recognize that there's something beyond ourselves, that there is an expectation for unanswered questions, but the approach that we take in New Thought gives us a much greater sense for what comes next, or if not an answer to what comes next, a comfort about what comes next.
I love that the Apostle Paul said that we are to walk or live by faith, not by sight. And faith is trust. And so I don't have to know what's next to trust that it's okay. I don't have to have the, we talk about faith, and yet we want everything, we want to see the picture of what it looks like. Well, that's not faith, that's just paying attention. But that's
astrology.
That's astrology, exactly.
Yeah.
But faith is, I don't know and I don't have to know. That whatever it is, if God is omnipresent, whatever it is, God's there. And if God's there, it's okay, or at least there is the power available for me to make it okay. And I may never know anything more than that. I have all these imaginations of, maybe I believe in reincarnation or heaven or that it's just like this wonderful, refreshing nap that lasts forever. I mean, who knows what I believe. But someone else can believe something very different, and we don't even have to be at odds. Because whatever we're saying we believe, it's a way of saying it's okay. It's okay. Unless what we've chosen to believe is that, we're in and somebody else is out, and then that creates some needless friction. But that's a different show. So so we are trying to offer a religion that is reasonable and that is also reflective. Where we get to ask questions and think about things and not necessarily come to the same answers, and that is relevant. Not so much trying to get the pass key through the next door, but sort of some tools to make this be an abundant life. Because otherwise, who needs it? We could the next life is going to take care of itself, and I could be afraid and anxious without religion. So religion's purpose, or how we're presenting it, is so that it can be something that offers us hope and tools for navigation right here and right now.
Well, and peace and comfort, I think, are perhaps the end results of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that whatever approach you take, if the end result is an inner peace and a comfort with not only where you're going, but who you are in going there, then religion has served its purpose.
And that's going to be our last word today. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining us on Sharing the Light.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for another great episode of Sharing the Light. Tell your friends about this online ministry, and when you're in Southeast Florida, make sure you worship with us on a Sunday at the 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. service. And now for a final word from our senior pastor, the Reverend Dr. Durrell Watkins.
Email me at Durrell@sunshinecathedral.net if you have a religious question or if you'd like to subscribe to our daily devotional magazine, Spirit and Truth. We'll send it anywhere in the United States for an annual donation of any size. You can also email us prayer requests, or you can make donations on our website, www.sunshinecathedral.org. You'll also want to check out our great performing arts series, religious education classes, conferences, and other exciting activities. For now, we wish you many blessings on your spiritual journey.